Genre. Genre has occupied an important place in the study of cinema for over 30 years, says Steve Neal in his 2000 book titled Genre in Hollywood. He explains that genre is a French word meaning type or kind. Genres are recognisable but not fixed. Although we sometimes think of them as definitive ways of categorising films, there can be uncertainty. An example of this is in the action genre. The action genre has been through many phases, originating in other genres, primarily the western, the crime film, and the war movie, says Harvey O'Brien in his 2012 book titled Action Movies: The Cinema of Striking Back. Many consider the first action film to be 1903's The Great Train Robbery. Many genres, such as the ones O'Brien mentioned, have elements of action. However, Yvonne Tasker states in her 2015 book The Hollywood Action and Adventure Film that action emerges as a distinct genre during the new Hollywood of the 1970s, with its orientation around high-concept pre-sold blockbusters. When we think of action, we think of explosions, car chases, fights, and slow-mo. However, Tasker argues that the genre has no consistent iconography or setting. Stars of the genre, such as Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and Bruce Willis, also play a huge role in its popularity. This was a time where action was on the top of its game, with films such as The Terminator, Rambo, and Die Hard franchises. The early 2000s ushered in a new era of action, with most notably the Bourne trilogy. These films were thrilling and action-packed, but they popularised one technique in particular during their fight scenes: the shaky cam. While the Bourne films mostly used this technique effectively to reflect the messy and chaotic nature of their action, it led to many other films also using this technique. However, this was often done to cover up sloppy choreography, rather than for a narrative purpose. The 2000s also saw a rise in superhero films, such as the Spider-Man and Dark Knight trilogies, as well as the inception of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This, coupled with the decline in quality of action films, meant that the genre was becoming less popular. That was until 2014, when the world was introduced to the formidable force that is
John Wick.
But what is it that sets apart the initial John Wick film and ensuing franchise from the rest of the action genre? What made it so successful? There is so much to admire about this franchise, but most notably was that it came at a time when the action genre really needed it. It was a breath of fresh air that revitalised the genre. Although it follows many of the conventions that we expect of the genre, such as car chases, explosions, slow-mo, and most notably revenge, it also subverts them in a lot of ways. John Wick is not your typical action hero. He isn't super muscular like Schwarzenegger or Stallone, nor is he quite like Bond or Bourne. Although there is something he shares with Stallone. They're often shown getting beaten up. A lot. He is more reminiscent of a neo-noir character. John Dahl states in his book Neo-Noir: Examining Autorism and Genre that in this genre, the protagonist may be a loner who appears to live by his own rules but who is also, to a certain degree, self-effacing and forthcoming, as well as there being stories laden with corruption, double crosses, and devious twists. This is only one of the ways that John Wick subverts the genre, but it immediately sets it apart from the rest. Looking back at the first film, the first 30 minutes or so doesn't have John Wick killing anyone. We just get a glimpse at his life and his normality before that is disrupted. That's when the true John Wick we've been hearing about is unleashed. We see during the house fight a more typical action hero, as he displays his fighting skills while killing many people. This leads us to one of the main reasons John Wick is so revered: its focus on choreography and stunt work, which is thanks in large part to directors Chad Stahelski and David Leitch. Stahelski and Leitch worked as stuntmen and coordinators on a number of films, including Stahelski doubling Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. He and Leitch honed their craft across many films and were eventually asked to oversee the stunts for John Wick. When they read the script, they insisted that they direct the movie, and the rest is history. Leitch only co-directed for the first film, while Stahelski has directed the remaining 3 films solo. Throughout the almost 10 years since the first instalment, he has only improved his craft. taking real care in putting the action and choreography first. John Wick's style of action contrasts with that seen in other Hollywood films before its release, the likes of Bourne with its quick cutting and shaky camera. Wick focuses on a steady camera and much wider angles in order to capture more of the choreography. Clarity is the main goal in the fight scenes. This is more reminiscent of Asian cinema than Hollywood, the work of people like Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. This not only influenced the camera work, but also the use of martial arts in the John Wick franchise. And of course, one can't talk about John Wick without mentioning the man himself, Keanu Reeves. The franchise could be considered a star vehicle for Reeves, a term Richard Dyer describes in his 1979 book Stars. Dyer says the vehicle might provide a character, situation, setting, or generic context of the type associated with the star. Looking at Reeves' history of films, it seems only natural that he was cast in the role of John Wick. His major action and stunt debut came in the 1991 film Point Break, in which he performed many of the stunts himself. This was followed by Speed, in which he progressed in the skills he learned from Point Break, and of course, The Matrix, where he had his first experience of training months before the film began shooting, as well as doing much more martial arts training. This set him up for the immense amount of training he has come to do for the John Wick films. His commitment to this role is what makes it so special, and the fight scenes so spectacular. The fact that Reeves is able to do so much of the stunt work himself, whether it be driving, or martial arts, or John Wick's signature gun fu, it allows Stahelski to keep the camera rolling and go for longer takes. He doesn't have to rely on quick cuts to hide stunt performers' faces. This helps to immerse the audience, as we know that it's really Reeves doing a lot of these stunts, and provides a sense of authenticity. Another element that sets this franchise apart from the action genre is the world building. This has become an important element for franchises nowadays, as it leaves open the possibility of creating more content within the same universe. For instance, the early part of the first movie is used to set up the myth of John Wick. We hear of this mysterious and deadly figure, which creates a sense of fear in both the characters and the audience. Then, during the house fight, we see what they've been talking about. This is another reason why Reeves being able to do all these stunts is so beneficial. We hear about what John Wick can do, and then we see him do it. This world building has continued into the later movies as well, as we learn about the high table, and the rules, and the consequences of John's actions. This helps the franchise to not suffer from sequel fatigue. One of the most notable scenes in the first film is the club scene. This scene arguably set up the style and precedent for all the movies to follow. It also set the bar for how many ways John can shoot people. Although we have already seen John in action, this is really where we are shown how formidable and ruthless he is. It shows how far he will go to exact his revenge. Although John Wick follows many of the conventions of the action genre, I think it's also set apart from it for many reasons. Stahelski's focus on the choreography, the influences from Asian cinema, and Keanu Reeves' commitment to this character all combine to make John Wick a truly special story, and proves that, although genre may be recognisable, it is not fixed.